awesome that we just unplugged the TV. So it's going to take a second to power up. But this morning, I just I want to say something that my son has started to say a lot. No signal, cool. He doesn't say that actually. He says other things to me. He says, I'm just going to play around over here while I'm talking. He says, "Dad, could you just imagine?" And then he says, like, "Could you imagine we go to McDonald's?" He's very good at vision casting at this point. He's learning. He's learning that trade. Uh, he, so this morning, as we continue on, I'm going to steal that line from him. Could you just imagine if we went back to the 1950s? Yeah, it's super exciting, right? Imagine that you went back to the 1950s, and in this moment, you're actually able to take some of the tech with us, like the technology we have, the cell phones, all that stuff that we so love. It's still not working, huh? It's fine. Let's talk about tech working. This could be fun. That's fine. But if you go back and you visited someone's house and they invited you in at the last second, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, come on in," and they're like, "Oh, we need more food for dinner," and you're like, "Well, I mean, we could just order it," and they're like, "Order on what are you talking about?" You're like, "Yeah, well, you just use the app. There's an app for that," and they're like, "What's an app?" And then you said, "Well, it's on your phone," and they're like, "What's a cell phone?" And then you said, "Well, you order it on your phone through the internet," and they're like, "What language are you speaking right now?" And you started to list off all of the things that we use, like meal delivery, online banking. They're like, "I don't have to go to the bank to transfer money anymore. I can just do that at home." And you're like, "Yeah, it's super easy as long as you have cell service." And they're like, "What? Tell me about that again." And you're like, "I can't. I don't know. I don't know how to express it to you. It's just magic is really all it is." You have virtual telehealth, machines to do washing clothes and drying the clothes. You don't have to use a clothes dryer, hang your clothes out anymore. There's so much that we have. We have robot vacuums, which sounds crazy, like they're going to take over the world, but we call it, it's a Roomba, whatever that is. Music and entertainment, all of these things that we have, you just start to tell these people that you wandered into their house in the 1950s, you tell them about the technology that we have. And they probably would look at you, first of all, like you're crazy, because we are, and that's fine. But then secondly, they would say, "Wow, you must have so much more time," right? Because everything that you just listed is what they tried to work so hard to accomplish in their days. We can do all this, most of it, on our phone, like just with a thought and a push of a button, and it automatically goes. Or pre-programmed. We don't even have to tell the Roomba to turn on. It just does it on its own. Like, it's amazing. And they would assume that we're so much more relaxed, stress-free, time to focus on what matters the absolute most in our life, the important things. And they would say that, and you would say, "Huh, no, that's not it, actually." No, actually, we're more stressed out than ever before. We have less time. We have no time, is what we have. We're busier than any other time. And they would look at you and they'd say, "Well, the math doesn't math on that." They probably wouldn't. I don't know what phraseology they would use at that point, but that would be the same one, right? Because our busy schedules, our busyness, all of that seems like it should be easier with every advantage that we have today, and yet we don't. Their expectations are still our hopes, right? We still want those things, and we're still not experiencing them. Here's the problem, in this kind of a recap of the last series. The problem is that we all get way too busy. And busy in and of itself is not a bad thing, right? I talked about the mindset shift to shift your mind from busy to full. That's a good thing. We have full lives. We added the things on the calendar to start with ourselves, and we have a lot of great things on our calendar. The problem is not busyness. The problem lies in the friend that busy invites along with, and that's hurry. Right? Busy often invites hurry, and this is an issue. Because when we get hurried, unhealthy things happen. We start to act differently. We start to talk differently. We start to treat other people differently. We walk into situations differently than we would if we weren't in a hurry. If you want to know what hurry means, we're just going to use this definition for this week. An unhealthy preoccupation with a future time, place, or outcome. Now, in our world today, busy is inevitable, right? You're going to be busy. I'm going to be busy. We're all going to be busy at every season of life. You talk to a college student, you talk to a high school student, you talk to a grade school student, you talk to someone that's retired, everybody in between. We're all busy. We got stuff on the calendar. We got stuff to do. Busy's inevitable. But hurry doesn't necessarily need to follow along, and it so often does, and hurry is not our friend. Hurry kicks you out of the captain's chair and takes over, grabs the wheel, whatever vehicle your life is driving, it takes that over, and it controls it. Last week, I brought this quote up because I think it's perfectly in line with what we're talking about. This is from Dallas Willard. He says, "You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life." You got to get rid of it. Somehow, some way, you've got to remove hurry from your life. Why? It's not just because of our peace of mind. It's because when you think about it in these bigger, broader terms, hurry is actually the enemy of your spiritual formation and progression forward. When you think of a growing relationship with Jesus, when you think about following Jesus with your life, hurry is the thing that derails us and gets us off our track so often of the time. Hurry, it's difficult because it doesn't go away easily. It's kind of like your kid that just constantly over and over asks you, like, hey, can we go to McDonald's? Or, hey, can I watch that show? They don't ask just once. Maybe my son doesn't ask just once. We'll just talk about my family. It's a repeat over. And it doesn't matter how many times until finally dad's like, hey, I already answered that. Go to your room. No, I don't. Sometimes I do. But we do have discipline in our house. But kids, they just repeat these questions over and over. And I think that's the same with hurry. It doesn't stop. It just tracks you down. It keeps coming at you. It just won't quit. So last week, I gave you some advice because that's what this whole entire series, all 3 weeks, is about advice. Last week, the piece of advice was this, to slow down. And a couple, pointers in there is to choose the longest line, which sounds horrible, or drive the speed limit. And, when I was thinking about this message this morning, and I knew I was going to bring this back up again, and I thought, what's great is I know that you guys, if you were here last week or you watched online, I know that you did a great job driving the speed limit. And the way I know that you did is because I got behind a bunch of you, it seems like, throughout the week. And I was like, whoa, we are definitely doing 35 here. Okay, all right. So good job. Good on you. You say, you go ahead. Just make that a repeat in your vernacular, like how you're talking to people. When you show up at the same time, you let other people go first. Why? Because this prioritizes a person over a thing, and it allows you to intentionally slow down. Gave you a couple other pieces of advice. To welcome interruptions. And so many of our interruptions have names. And when we don't embrace their interruption, we're not embracing them. Don't pick up your phone while you're waiting. Like I said, choose the longest line. The tendency is to choose the longest line and to be like, okay, well, that means that I get to pull my phone out and do like work on the side or check social media or check ESPN or whatever your thing is. That's not what that's for. Get in the longest line and just wait. Don't pull your phone out. Just live for a second without something right in your face that slows you down and that actually helps you intentionally choose not to be in a hurry. So, other than the speed limit thing, how'd you guys do last week? How'd you do? I know at least one time, I was in a hurry. I felt the pressure coming up, and I just sat down instead. Instead of get up and keep on going, I sat down. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do a super brave thing, and I'm going to pray for a second. And I did. And I read my Bible app for a little bit. And I know all of you are like, way to go, slow clap for the pastor. But I did it, guys. Like that, my normal is just to bust through and just start getting as many things checked off the list as possible. How about you guys? Did you do that? If you tried, here's what I know about you. Even if you tried and failed, you still survived because you're still here this morning. You made it. And most of you are dressed like appropriately. You got out of bed in plenty of time to wear normal, clothes. Most of you. I'm not going to point out who. When life is full, right? When we get into the busy seasons, and some seasons are busier than others, and I get that, but we always feel that tension. We have to intentionally, ruthlessly eliminate hurry. It will not leave our lives on its own. It's only by an intentional choice that we make regularly over and over in order that we can experience those higher value pieces that God invites us into, that he's actually made a way for us to experience peace when we shouldn't have peace, patience when the world around us is chaos, joy when everyone assumes that you won't have joy in your life. God gives us these things, but if we're in a hurry, we will miss out on those opportunities. So the whole point from last week was this: when we intentionally slow down, hurry can't make you drown. I just wanted to rhyme. There's a better one. It's actually this: when we intentionally slow down, hurry can't take control. I mean, that's really, in and of itself, that's what we're talking about. That's what we talked about last week. We have to intentionally slow down. This isn't like allowing the car to just like coast to the stop line. Like we have to push on the brakes. Because when we step on the brakes, hurry can't step on the gas. If we're coasting, hurry's going to scooch over and stomp on that gas pedal again. So this is how we fight back, right? We fight back by slowing down with these options. And if you weren't able to do this, if you tried and failed, or if you just completely denied this altogether last week, first of all, thanks for showing up again. We'll try it again today. But secondly, if this is just a hurdle too high for you, this should be flashing red lights that you're not in control. You might feel like you just have a busy schedule, and right now we got too many things. I'll try to slow down a different season. This should be flashing red lights that you have given up control to something other than you. That hurry has gripped a hold of the wheel of your life and is starting to steer you in a direction. If you want to take back control, you have to slow down on purpose and for purpose. Today, we have a second piece of advice, and this is a word that is actually in the English language. And I know that depending on the season of life that you're in, either you hear it way too much, and some of us don't hear it nearly enough. It's one that I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but the word is no. It's a in and then an O sound. No. Like saying nachos without the acho. No. Should we all practice together? Ready? No. Good job. So the advice for this week is to say no. To say no. We are absolutely 100% yes machines. And I keep telling people that this series is horrible for me because I'm not speaking from a place of strength. I'm sharing out of my weakness. I'm sharing out of my vulnerability. I'm not great at this. I on repeat am just like, yep, let's do it. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll be there. There are more things to say than yes, though. But we keep on putting and adding and adding and adding more and more and more because we continue to say yes, and we fill our calendars fuller than ever before. How many, you don't have to raise your hand, but have you ever gotten a calendar and you start filling it up and you're like, ooh, this one doesn't have enough space, so you had to get a second calendar or one with bigger like spaces on there? That's a problem. There's some research that was done from this college in London called University College, which I feel like is a little bit duplicitous, like repetitive, whatever. But they did this study and collected some data from the 60s, 80s, and 2000s. The 60s was fascinating because in the 60s, leisure time was actually the goal. Leisure time, if you had leisure time in your life, you were perceived then as being successful. The fact that you did have a chance to take time off of work, to step away from work, you could leave your work in the office or wherever that was, and you got to focus some time on your family and the really important things, that was seen as you have your life under control. If you filled up your life and you had to do a bunch of extra jobs and a bunch of, putting pieces together, then you're like, ooh, you're struggling a little bit. Fast forward, I'm not even going to talk about the 80s, but there's a trend. We get all the way to the 2000s, and it's the opposite. Like the exact opposite of what is perceived as success is that if you have a full calendar, if you're doing multiple things, that's what's perceived by our society as actually being successful rather than having leisure time. So this is the author of the book, Busyness as the Badge of Honor, and you can tell they're from across the pond because they misspelled honor. But this is what he said: work, not leisure, is now the signifier of dominant social status. So when we get in a hurry, we feel like we're doing something good. We have a society, we have a world around us that is they're actually supporting this mentality. They're rewarding this mentality. Wow, you must be successful. Look how busy you are. You're doing a good job at life. You're winning. Way to go. It used to be that if you had time in the evenings to play catch with your son, that was a good old thumbs up. Way to go, Dad. But now, if you have time to take off, to go do what it is that you want to do, to have some leisure time, then that means that you're making a mistake. You could be filling that time up with something else beneficial. You could be profiting from another, stream of income somehow. Get another job. Do something more. Find another hat, another role to wear. Jump on that board. Do that thing. Be part of that team. Go over there. Do that. And we feel like internally somehow that defines our success. It's like we've been turned into walking, talking, living, breathing resumes for a scholarship. It's like we have to have all of those bullet points. If we only have one or two, that's not enough. They're going to skip over us. That success label is going to get passed on to someone else. We have to have our lives full enough if we're going to be perceived and seen as successful. Let's talk about an aspect of life that I love: vacation. Some of you are like, what in the world is that? I've never heard of it. In the 60s, if you went on vacation, like in times past, you went on vacation, it was this incredible moment where you had idle time with your family. You didn't pull your cell phone out. You didn't bring a computer with you just to finish one more thing up while you're on vacation. You didn't have, the mentality of, well, I hope the place has, the right streaming service so we can keep on watching our shows together. It was idle time spent with your family, whether you loved your family or not. You were forced to be present with them. Today, we last all of about 33 seconds. We, pack the car, get everyone in there. We get to the location, and 33 seconds later, it's like, we're here. Pull out your phone. There you went. That was it. That was all that you had. Everyone on their iPads, let's go. That's not vacation. That continues to fill up your attention. It continues to fill up your time with something else rather than what's most important in that moment. We bring work with us. There's another, imagine if moment here. But imagine if tomorrow morning you woke up and it wasn't Monday. And it wasn't Sunday. We're not talking about the repeat Bill Murray, like we're doing Groundhog's Day again. It was a different day. A day after Sunday, a day before Monday, and all of a sudden we found that there's a new day in our calendar. What would that feel like if there's an 8th day of the week? I mean, immediately you're like, what? That would be incredible. I could sleep in. Or I could just slow roll breakfast. We could actually have breakfast as a family. We could do something fun. Or just do nothing at all. Like, doesn't that feel different? Here's the problem, though. If you had a day that somehow got missed on the calendar, that didn't have things scheduled on it, and you found that it was repeating every single week, and instead of 7 days, there's 8 days, here's what I know about all of us. In a very short period of time, that 8th day would be treated like every single other day. We would start to fill it up. Like, what would be helpful is if I could do like just a half day of work on that day. What'd be helpful is if I could do those things that I've been putting off at home, make it into a home project day. What'd be great is I could go here and help this organization, or I could start another job. Pretty soon, we would fill that day up and it would look just like every other day. Why do I know this? Because we are yes machines. That's what we do. And don't get me wrong, there's some really, really, really good things on our calendars. Some great things. I'm so proud of the things that you have on your calendar because they're honoring. They're honoring to others, they're honoring to God. But we can overcommit. And we can make something that is good and important that wears us down and wears us out. And it turns us into giving in a regrettable yes to opportunities. Here's what a regrettable yes is. That we feel the tension that we have to say yes to this person because we don't want to rock the boat. Because we know if we say no to them, they're going to be upset with us. And then we're going to have to deal with them at Thanksgiving. I'm sorry, Mom, like whatever it might be. Like whoever it is that you're saying yes to, internally you're like, oh, I wish I didn't have to. But you don't want to rock the boat. Maybe it's you're validating yourself. This is a tricky one. That you're actually saying yes to someone because you feel like if you do, you're going to earn your stripes. You're going to prove to others how successful you are. Remember, because success is how busy you are. Maybe it's, fear of missing out, FOMO. You have this tension that if I don't say yes, then I'm going to miss out. And I need to say yes because I need to get in that selfie and I need to have that picture somewhere. I need to make sure that I go because what's going to happen if I don't go to that show? What's going to happen if I don't make it? I'll miss out. So we have, in hindsight, we look at these and I think, man, I wish I wouldn't have. I didn't need to. But in the moment, there's that tension of I think I'm going to regret this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Anytime that we know better and we say yes, that's a regrettable, reluctant yes. And what that leads to is a detrimental acceptance to a casual invitation. So many times it's not like a big deal. So many times it's just someone inviting you to something because they like you. Some days, like they don't even have to like you a lot. They're just like, hey, you want to go do this thing? Cool, yeah, I would. It's like when someone asks you one more time to go get coffee. You're like, yes, I would love to go get coffee, but do you need to? Can you say no in this moment? Can you postpone it for a while? Can you wait till it actually fits in your calendar? It's innocent enough on their part. They're not trying to harm you in any way. And yet it's all on us, right? We're so tired. And yet we feel this tension that we have to say yes. Which is why, when we're so exhausted from all the yeses we've said is why coffee makes it really easy. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go get coffee. That seems to help. More caffeine, please. The onus is not on them. It's on us. And when we're honest with ourselves, we are our own worst enemy. Now, I've been in this process for a while. I've been aware of this tension that I have. I've been trying to strengthen my no muscle. I've been trying to work it out every once in a while. And it needs a workout. But thankfully, I have an example that I can look to. His name is Jesus. So where we're going to look this morning is in the book of Mark. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This is the beginning of the New Testament. They're known as the Gospels, these 4 books. They record the life and ministry of Jesus. And we're going to look at the beginning of Mark. And in this moment, Jesus is modeling the principle of saying no. He's in Capernaum, and he's been ministering to people, and it's incredible. Like their ministry is exploding. People are all about it. He's been teaching. He's been doing miracles. More and more people want to show up. And if you've ever been in a season of success and just going nonstop because it's going so well, you know that there's certain mornings that you're like, you know what would be nice right in the middle of this? Like just sleeping in an extra half an hour. Can I do just 20 minutes today? Can I get can I have one more cup of coffee before I have to rush off? And if there's one of these moments in their ministry, it was this moment, right? But that's where we're going to pick up in Mark chapter 1 verse 35. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Now, what's interesting here, Jesus, and we see this repeatedly, that Jesus gets up, he goes and spends isolated, alone time with God the Father. He needed to do it. It wasn't just because, it's just a thing to do. He had a habit on repeat. It was because he needed this in his life. If Jesus needed this, we need this also. Right? This is not what we say no to. Yet this is one of the first things that we do say no to, is spending time with our Heavenly Father. But eventually, so Jesus goes off by himself. Imagine this, there's no lights, there's no street lamps, there's no electricity, there's no he's getting up, and when it says in the dark, it's literally in the dark, like nighttime. He's getting up to go spend time with God. Would we do that? Anyway, so Jesus gets up, he leaves. The disciples are, they eventually finally roll out of bed. They're looking for him. They're like, he's gone again. Let's go find him. This is a regularity. Send out the search party. Let's go see where Jesus is. We got to start our day. Simon and his companions went to look for him. And when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you." The disciples, they felt this go-between tension. They're still trying to figure out what their role is in this ministry on the team. Are they supposed to protect Jesus? Are they supposed to keep him on track and keep him on pace? Well, what are they actually supposed to do? They're trying to figure it all out. And ministry is growing, so their desire to spend time with him and everybody else's desire to spend face time with Jesus, not the app, but in real life. It's all growing. More and more people want more and more of Jesus. This obscure rabbi is becoming a bigger and bigger deal. And this is a regular request from the disciples. Hey, we need to spend time with you. Hey, these other people now want to spend time with you. We got to keep this thing going. We're gaining some momentum. Let's not lose it. Have you felt this before? That if you say no, you might lose the momentum, the growth that you're finally seeing in your life. But Jesus says no. He replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also." Now, we read through this, we kind of shrug, we just go on. But if you were in Capernaum at that time, and you overheard Jesus saying this, you'd be like, "Hey, Jesus, you're not done here yet. My brother-in-law didn't get healed yet. My thing didn't happen yet. You haven't talked to me. I didn't hear enough of you yet. You're not done here. Don't leave. Please don't go." This wouldn't be a shrug of the shoulders thing. You would feel left out. You would feel like you didn't get enough, right? And Jesus and the disciples are on the other side of that. The tension that they would have felt in this moment is that his reputation, the reputation of the whole ministry, everything that he showed up for is at risk. Because if Jesus doesn't fully do the job in each location that he's at, then he's missing opportunity and the growth hasn't happened. And he's talking about going off to the side villages, we're in Capernaum, let's do the thing here. We'll let the other smaller villages come into Capernaum. You don't need to go out there. It feels like he's undermining the momentum that they're building. But Jesus intentionally and strategically says no. And it's because his strategy, his intention is different than what everybody else expects. So Jesus said, let's go somewhere else to the nearby villages so I can preach there also. That is why I have come. He says no with a reason. The reason he says no is because of his why. It's because of his purpose, his mission that he's already fully committed to. He sees it so clearly what his life is about, what every hour of every day is dedicated to, is something bigger than the disciples can see. And he will not let anyone or anything get in the way of him taking a step towards that mission, towards that purpose, towards that goal. Even if it seems like success hangs in the balance and perception hangs in the balance. His why was his mission. His why was his purpose. So for you and me, here's the question. Are your yeses leading to your why? Because we say yes to things that end up on our calendar. Every time that something ends up on our calendar, it is because we said yes to it. Are your yeses leading to your why, your purpose, your goal, your mission, your vision for your life? Are your yeses moving you there, or are they just filling up time and space? Are they reinforcing your greater goal and purpose in your life? Or are they just because someone randomly invited you to go do something and you said, well, I'm going to feel bad if I don't say yes? What we say yes or no to defines our values and our identity. It defines it. I mean, it shows you in that moment. Have you prioritized it? Yes or no? Which way? Is this something that's important to you, that you're willing to give some of your precious life and time to? Or are you going to say no? Now, this is not something that comes naturally to me. And don't take this personally, but I've given out quite a few regrettable yeses. Of course, I'm not speaking about any of you. But there's been moments that I've said yes, and I'm like, man, that cost me too much. Too much time, too much energy. I appreciate the invite, but I didn't need to show up, and I could have been doing something else, right? The regrettable yeses in our life. When you limit these, you start to limit these because you recognize that we have said those. This is a habit. This is a knee-jerk reaction. We just say yes to everything. When we start to intentionally minimize the yeses in our life and start to say no to some things, what we do say yes to becomes even better. It's like, this was important. This was on purpose. This was intentional that I said yes to this. And you can show up in the full version of yourself rather than the version that's like, I'm going to be here for 7.5 minutes and then I got to run because I have 16 other things that I haven't been to yet. And I've got to show up to those as well because I said yes to them even though I didn't want to be there. Resist the urge to fill up your calendar. And it's not just people that are vying for your attention. Right here, this is kind of a sidetrack thing, but I think it's important to say. We say yes to other things other than people all the time. We say yes to our cell phone and technology every time we pick it up. And if you want a terrifying statistic, I'm going to give it to you whether you want it or not. There's a study not too long ago that showed the average cell phone user touches their phone over 2,600 times a day. I did the math because this was so startling to me. If you averaged out the amount of times that you breathe while you're awake, this is once every 5 or 6 breaths. Could you imagine that? That you're spending 1 out of every 5 or 6 breaths touching a device in your face. That's terrifying. That is shocking. You want some time back? You want some margin back in your life? Start to say no. Start to say no to your phone. I mean, think about that. If you just limited half of the time, 1 out of every 10 breaths, oh my goodness. What if we actually minimize this, said, I'm going to block out this 2-hour chunk of my day to not touch my phone. I'm going to take a half day once a week to not touch my phone. What do you think that would do? Here's my guess. I think we'd be in a much, much better place emotionally, psychologically. Coming from a pastor, dare I say, spiritually as well. So, to wrap things up, I'm trying to make this as easy and practical as possible. So I have a list of things for us to do with our advice this morning. How to say no. First of all, make a yes list. Predetermine ahead of time what you're going to say yes to. Like, know those things that are important to you that are going to be elevated, are going to surpass everything else. It's like, that's the priority. I'm going to say yes to that, even if I've already said yes to something else. That's the more important one in my life. Predetermine and make a yes list. Another one, turn your phone off. I know I'm not opposed to technology. I have a phone all the time. I have an Apple Watch connected to my phone. I get it. They're so convenient and so helpful. But we dare not let those simple, helpful tools become more than just a tool. It actually starts to take over, to steal our attention, to steal our time, our energy, our focus. And then resist the temptation to explain when you say no to someone. This is, I'm horrible at this as well. As I was writing this, I was like, I'm so bad at this. I will say no if I dare say no. Like, most of the time it's a yes. But if I do say no, I want to be like, here's why. And I tell them like my entire month's worth of like, all of these factored in. I don't want you to feel bad. But I think it's important to say unexplained no's. So we say this. Someone invites you to something, you say, unfortunately, I'm unable to. Period. Stop talking. Don't text anymore. That period is not the beginning of an ellipsis, the 3 dots. No, that's the end of it. That's all you say. Don't worry, I got more options. I can't make it. Sorry to miss. That's it. I'm unavailable that day. Thanks for the invite. And here's another thing. Make sure you're not lying in this. Like, if you're not grateful for the invite, then don't say that one. Like, just stop a little bit sooner. How about this one? Sorry I can't be there. Hope it's a great time. Right? This allows you to not have to convince other people that their invitation was not important. Or when you feel like when you say no, you're devaluing the relationship. But actually, when you say no, you're protecting what is important. You're protecting your time. You're protecting yourself against a regrettable yes. Because let's be honest, you don't need to go do that thing. Your world is not going to be dramatically better because you went there. In fact, it might be worse because it took over your calendar. You grabbed a hold of the steering wheel because now you had to rush as soon as you got back, or you had to hurry the whole entire rest of the week in order to be ready for the thing. You can say no and keep some breathing space in our life. We got to keep our yeses in check. Try to create room to connect what's most important with your family, with your spouse, with your children, with God. Like, I think one of the main reasons, like I said at the beginning, one of the main reasons why we get out of sync, we get out of habit, we miss spending time with God is because as soon as we wake up, we know exactly how many things we have to cram into the day. And that unfortunately rushes us right past spending time with our Creator, spending time with the one that knows you, that created you, that loves you. Prioritizing time with Jesus who died on the cross for you. Spending time with God is not a bullet point. It's not like one of the many things to do. It is the source of our strength. It allows us to do the other things. And if you're not implementing that in your day, you're going to be a lesser version of yourself throughout those other parts. So, here's a big question. And the entire time that I was writing this message, I was like, people are going to think this. Did I just give you permission to say no to church? right? Because it's one more thing we got to get up for. I think, this is just my opinion, I think that church engagement absolutely, unequivocally strengthens our relationship with God and the most important aspects of our life. It rights the ship, it reprioritizes them in the right order, it highlights those things that we often don't on our own. I think it's helpful. So I think that it's incredibly important and valuable. So keep showing up. But, and there is a but here. I've said this to staff members, I've said this to volunteers, I've told people this from day one. That as a Jesus follower, you have a ministry, whether you work at church or not. And your very first ministry is your family. It's your own sanity. It's your own health. And if ever, what I've asked you to do, if ever church gets in the way of that higher value, then yeah, absolutely, by all means. If church is getting in the way of your faith with God somehow, then yeah, absolutely. Prioritize your relationship with God over church. Sounds funny. Some people can get there. But, whether you're a staff person, whether you're a volunteer person, whether you're just showing up, church is valuable, it's important. So I would suggest looking at other aspects of your life that might be taking over. I do have some discussion questions for this because I always like to continue the conversation, whether it's just like your conversation with you in your car while you're driving the speed limit, or you can talk about this in small group or wherever. I want to keep this conversation going because this is not something you just have on a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock and then you just like wipe it from your memory and it goes on and stays here. I want you to take this with you. So here's how we continue the conversation. What are some of the regrettable yeses you've made lately? Those are fun. You might even share those with some people. Share them with your spouse. Not if it's something that she asks you to do, though. Okay. What has been downgraded on your priorities that needs to be upgraded? And then the reverse of that, what has been upgraded that needs to be downgraded? Right? This is what this is all about. Saying no to the things that we should say no to in order that we can say yes to the things that we should say yes to. So what have we been saying yes to that we need to start saying no to? What have you said no to that we need to start saying yes to? And then lastly, what is going to be the difference between knowing what you need to do and actually doing it? Because we can have great ideas, we can have great thoughts, we're like, I'm going to do it. This is so important. It's so critical. I want my relationship with God to grow. So I'm going to take those steps. And then what? Monday morning hits and you're like, did we go to church yesterday? What did we talk about? I don't even remember. I get it. I've been there. But what's going to be a step for you that's going to start to put this and implement this into an action step in your life? Maybe it is have a conversation with someone. Invite them in on the journey with you. Say, hey, this is a value for me. This is what I really want. I struggle with this. Would you please help me along the way? Invite someone in to this journey with you. Let me pray. We're going to get you guys out of here. Not in a hurry, though. We're just going to nonchalantly, just very relaxed. Dear Heavenly Father, you are a good God. You know each and every one of us. You know every single hair on our head. You know our thoughts better than we know them. You know our feelings, our emotions. You know our schedule. You know our calendar. You know the tensions that we feel about every single yes or no that we say. And God, you know what we need. You know what we've been longing for. You know that we've been seeking and searching for something that is bigger and greater than ourselves, and you know that that is you. God, I pray that you would give us the courage and the boldness just to give enough space in our life in order to say yes to you, to hear from you, to engage with you, to ask questions. God, you desire relationship with us, and that takes time. So God, I pray that somehow, some way, we would start to carve out some time to figure out what that looks like. And it starts with a single first step in your direction. So, God, this morning, I pray that we would say yes to whatever step that is in our faith journey, because everybody has a yes to say to you. There's something that you want for us, and I pray that we would say yes to that. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. Thank you for being here with us. We'll see you all next week.